Good vibrations.
And it's welcome back this episode to a previous guest. I was just looking up when I had him on last, and the first show we did together was about natural law, and that was in December 2014, nearly 10 years ago. Bloody hell, time flies. And the last time was in 2017, September, so getting on for 7 years, all about the transgender agenda and beyond. So we're talking about some very different stuff today because we've both come a long way since then, and a lot of water has passed under the bridge. So it's welcome back to Tony Sayers.
Yeah, hi Mark. Thanks for having me back on, even though it's been quite a few years. And yeah, it's good to be back and connecting with you again and seeing that we've drawing same conclusions about what's going on right now. So yeah, great to be here.
I know, right? Who would have believed we would have ended up here from those conversations years ago? But
You
here we
know.
are. So we find you in Mexico right now.
Yeah, I've been here 4 years now, and yeah, I think I was living in Asia before, and the UK is challenging.
You're not a fan of England, are you?
No, I cannot function there, and I don't know. Well, you know yourself, and I don't want to badmouth the place too much because probably a lot of your listeners are there. But the energy is very dense there. They're spraying people like bugs every day, and we don't have so much of that here. And yeah, I just find it difficult to get creative. And you've got letters being sent all the time, fines being sent, cameras looking at you everywhere. So I mean, I
Yeah.
don't need to tell you and your listeners that it's kind of a suppressive atmosphere, whereas here the all the corruption is overt rather than covert. In the UK it's all sort of underground. Here it's like
Mm.
all eyes can see it, and I think I prefer my corruption like that than kind of in the shadows.
Right.
But we don't have all the nonsense with the cameras and the fines every 5 minutes, and it's just little things. Like if I want to buy contact lenses, like in the UK I have to go in, and then I have to make an appointment to come back, and then I have to come back with my driving license and a direct debit form, and just like the drawn out processes of everything. Whereas here, I just go in, I say I need these contacts, they just hand them to me straight away. It's just, I don't know, things just seem to flow a lot easier here, and
Mm.
of course the weather's not too bad also, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, we're still waiting for summer here, mid-July,
Yeah,
and
I
nothing to speak
heard.
of yet.
Yeah, I have to go back in a few months to visit family. It's been a few
Oh, bad
years.
luck.
Yeah, I've been trying to put it off. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll look forward to the weather and being sprayed like a bug again.
Yeah. Welcome home. So
Yeah.
it's funny the way things have turned out because I would previously have put it down to fate and life plans and stuff like that. But these days, I'm not so sure that those are real dynamics. And this is going to form the basis of our conversation. So we lost contact a few years ago and we went our separate ways. And yet, entirely independently of each other, we seem to have arrived at similar places in terms of our revised worldviews and spiritual viewpoints. And I started making videos early this year questioning the true nature of this realm that we find ourselves in and what force or entity might have created it and to what end. And it seems that you've been asking the very same questions, but for quite a bit longer than me. So you've been challenging a lot of deeply held, what we might call truther views, I guess. When people first start waking up to the fact that this world is nothing like we thought it was, most of them, I think, fall into certain thought patterns and ideas. And you've been challenging a lot of those.
Yeah. I mean, the intention has always been to I when I first kind of had my awakening was I want to get to the root cause of everything. I don't want to just I don't want to just learn about like how corrupt politicians and stuff. I wanted to know like why is this place so goddamn evil? Why is there so much trauma and suffering, and why are people kept in poverty and kids getting bombed and stuff like that? And yeah, originally we kind of fell into like the kind of Mark Passio natural law stuff. And I mean, I must have watched all of his podcasts because he wants you to listen to all his podcasts. So I was a very good student in that respect.
Right.
And we were coming at it at the same angle that, basically this is our fault, humanity's fault, that we are the cause of all of this suffering. And, we need to buck our ideas up, live perfect lives. And, then somehow the universe is going to reconstruct itself for us to experience freedom. And, that goes, I guess natural law is another word for karma. And so, yeah, I think we were both very much on the same page with that. And I was, out there preaching that for a while, which, now I look back and think, oh my God, that happens to all of us, But I think what's important is that we are able to change our opinions based on new information. I think that's what really sets people apart. I think in terms of looking for the truth, and I think it's important that we do that as a community, because this matrix is layered. There's many strands to the web, so to speak. And I feel really strongly right now that was either purposely or not purposely another strand to the web. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in natural law. I don't see it playing out on the world stage. We have big fat paedophile vicars that carry on doing what they do, abusing, raping children, and people bombing. They have all the resources, they have all the wealth, they have all the freedom. They probably don't use money. They probably have a card or something that's topped up. They don't have the same conditions that we have. And then you have good people that can be put in prison for a lifetime for crimes that they didn't do. I'm very fortunate enough to have traveled a lot in my life, and I've seen how incredibly poor people, the most beautiful heart being soul people, are put through, with just rummaging through bins. There was a guy the other day, I was on my motorbike here, and he's holding onto a colostomy bag, walking through traffic lights begging for money. And I gave him a bit, and his face just lit up, and he started like trying to hug me and stuff. Like, you could tell, such a beautiful soul, but he was, not only was he ill, but he was put in this condition of poverty because it's designed that way. And it's like, where's the karma? Where is this justice that's supposed to happen for people that do bad things, and the good stuff that goes for good? And you have a lot of people out there putting their neck on the line for truth, and they get all of a sudden suicided, quote unquote. So you would think that if there was some kind of karmic law, those people would be protected, but it just doesn't seem to ever work out like that. And I don't know. When I started questioning Mark's work, it had a lot to do with the time when I started learning about entity attachments, and not just the physical manipulation on our reality, but this manipulation is actually coming from the astral realm and the entities that reside there. And these entities, they don't just work through political leaders, which some researchers would tell you. They actually affect all of us. So we're all subject to entity attachments and their interference. And depending on how strong that entity attachment is, it can have a big say on how it manipulates a person's behavior. So you have a general entity attachment, which may be the voices in the head just telling you to have another beer, or continue your bad habit. But then you have someone who may have been an alcoholic or a meth addict. Their attachment can be a lot stronger, and they can then invoke like suicidal thoughts. I've had people tell me, Tony, I had this voice come in my head, tell me to drive my car into a wall, and I know it wasn't my voice. And so the fact is, based on my journey and research, there is multiple entity races. I wouldn't say it's just one. The reptilians are obviously the popular one, that are siphoning off and feeding on our energy and manipulating through world leaders certain events, and you know, designing this world into a place of essentially trauma and suffering. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some good things. Nature's beautiful, but even nature's ruthless. I could go out down the beach 10 minutes from here. I could go in the sea. I could get bitten in half by a bull shark. We have bull sharks out there.
Yeah.
The antelope and the lion, I mean, gets eaten alive. I mean, even though I'm not vegan anymore, I still find it difficult to resonate with the kind of the ruthlessness of this realm. So there are good things to enjoy. As I say, nature's beautiful, loving family, children, all that stuff. But the overarching theme of this realm is trauma and suffering, constant wars, constant famines, constantly kept in scarcity by money, and the lack of everything, which is by design, because these are the emotions that they need us to be in. They need us to be in these low frequency fear, desperation, depression, anxiety. They need us to be kept like that 24/7, because it's like caviar to them. So so I feel like this realm, although it may not have initially been designed this way, I feel it's been overlaid, almost like a computer game that has that gets like an infection. I feel like this is a game. This Matrix is a game, and there is like some kind of infection in the game, and I think this is what we're dealing with. And the head honcho, God, who I have a real big problem with, which really triggers a lot of people. I mean, all my work triggers a lot of people, to be fair, but when you start calling out Big G,
More triggers than a Smith and Wesson factory, I always say.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, how many prayers go unanswered? We're told God works in mysterious ways. How many parents pray for, and these examples I'm going to use, they're not extreme. But I call things how they are, right? Parents that their kid gets terminal brain cancer, right? Like, how many prayers get said for that kid, yet go unanswered? How many people in Gaza are praying on the daily basis for peace? Like, but yet no prayers ever seem to get answered. Or if good things do happen, they're automatically assigned to God, when maybe it might be someone else's hard work, or something that the person did themselves. And it just reeks of desperation. At this point, I don't even think it's not logical, it's not intelligent. And it doesn't mean to say that I'm an atheist. I do believe that there is an intelligence behind everything, but it's not this masquerading entity that calls himself God. And I've done a lot. I'm not sure if you have, Mark, probably you have, but I've done a lot of studying of near-death experiences. I'm talking like the last couple of years, watching them over and over again, and the examples of where the person meets, quote unquote, God, and then gets lured around again in the solar system. One of the worst examples was just the other month. There was an NDE that I watched, and the woman, I can't remember how she died, kind of irrelevant really, but she met God, and she reported looking back down on the earth, and the earth was on fire and the people were on fire. And she said God was sad. And she said, why are you sad, God? And he said, because the people didn't believe. So, I mean, this woman, she didn't have any discernment skills. So instead of saying, like, why would they be on fire because they didn't believe, she just was like, oh, well, if they believe, then they would have been okay. And God was like, yeah. And then God kept telling this woman that she had free will. She said, you have free will, you have free will. Kept repeating it over and over again. You know how they like to repeat things so you believe them. So she's saying, look, we all have free will because these people are just agents of the matrix now. She's like, God told me we all have free will. Don't worry, we have free will. And in the next breath, God says to her, you need to go back. It's not your time. She goes, I don't want to go back, God. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back. Adamant, she doesn't want to go back. You've got a mission. You've got a purpose. All that nonsense that they always use.
You've got free will to do as we tell you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not your time, yada, yada, yada. And in the next moment, and you can check my YouTube video for this where I review this NDE. She says that God stuffed her back down into her body, stuffed her. She uses that word, not my word, stuffed her into her body, and she's back down in her body again.
Nice
Now,
one, God. Cheers.
does that sound like a loving being that has invoked free will on us? You know,
No.
this clearly a manipulation, an entity that's masquerading, and this is what these entities do. They will masquerade to whatever flavor you like. So just say, Mark, I'm not saying this for a second that you're into this stuff, but just say your thing was Archangel Michael, right? You were really into art, you were really into angels when you were alive. So the algorithm, the AI in that realm works it out. Okay, how can we hook Mark back round? Okay, well, you know, he was really close to, you know, his mother, but he was also really into angels. Okay, when he shows up at the light tunnel, we'll present Archangel. So then what happens? You pass over, you've got these rigid matrix belief systems. You were really into angels. Archangel Michael meets you. Oh, wow. Great. Open arms. I'm going to be okay. And then you know, then they smooth talk you. And then they say, well, you know, it's time for your life review, Mark. And so, and when you review these NDEs, they often report being in like an auditorium where they get shown the clips of their lives and they see their lives flash amongst them. And all the time they're saying to the people, there is no judgment. We're not judging you. There is no judgment. But you know what they do? They make damn well sure they show you your worst parts, right? So you judge yourself. So they
Gaslight and guilt trip you.
Right, exactly. So they tell you on the one hand they're not judging you, but then they show you your bad bits. So let's say 2024, you hurt Brian. You know, you called him an arsehole or whatever, right? And you had a big argument with Brian. They'll show you that, and then they make you feel what Brian felt at the time. So they're not judging you, but they're making you feel what he felt, right? So what does that do? It ties into our human nature of feeling guilt, of feeling shame, of feeling empathy. And then they'll hit you because Mark in his living life was really into karma. He really believed in karma. They'll be like, right, Mark, you know, you're a good person generally, but, you know, you hurt Brian. So there's a little problem. You're going to have to come back. Oh, well, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back. Well, if you want to resolve your karma, then you're going to need to come back. And so what happens then? You know, the person, because they were ignorant, because they didn't bother to research this stuff when they were alive, reluctantly, nearly all the time reluctantly agrees to come back round. And then the worst thing is they have the memory wipe, which is the cruelest thing, because everything you learn in your physical life, the veil of forgetfulness, they wipe the memory. And this is why this lifetime is so important for people to get it right, because of the veil of forgetfulness. Because if you get to the point of the memory wipe, you could have learned so much in this physical life right now, and then it gets wiped and you have to start again. That's why they call it research, right? Retiring. We've done this before. And so it's very evil and cruel. And the New Age movement, the pseudo spiritual movement, will tell you that Earth is a school. Well, how on earth can it be a school if our memory is wiped? What is the point of learning lessons only to have the memory wiped so we forget them?
Exactly.
And you know, I'm personally very tired of people trying to explain this realm off as something that it's not. And you see that in most of the New Age movement, they want to tell you it's a school. God is, you know, I had an argument with a woman the other day, Um, I have a lot, unfortunately. Um, but she was telling me that I was saying, okay, what about? She was telling me that people choose bad experiences, right? And I'm like, okay.
Mm.
So what about little Peter? And again, this is an extreme example, but it's common. And what about little Peter that's being anally raped? Weekend after weekend by the vicar or the babysitter and all that stuff. You're telling me that he would have chosen that experience, or
Yeah.
throughout the years I've worked with a lot of satanic ritual survivors,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff they have told me that they were made to do would make your hair stand on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
Like
I've spoken to survivors myself.
you have as well, I know, yeah. And I mean,
No one would choose that
I
for
mean,
any level of consciousness, for
yeah,
any kind of value. You just would not choose those experiences.
yeah. I mean, the most extreme I heard, and I'm just going to say it, is that someone was made to kill another baby, and she was a child herself.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Why would someone choose that?
Right.
How is that? How is that a school? How is God experiencing Himself through that?
Yeah.
And this is why I get angry, Mark, about it when I hear that these New Agers try and pass this place off as something, and I know people want this place to be something that is not. I get it. I know why people want to believe in angels. I know why people want to believe in God. This place is very difficult to be in. We've all suffered trauma to some levels, some more than others, probably past lifetimes as well. um this is a very, very difficult place to be. I know people want things to feel good. I know people want pillars to lean into to make themselves feel better. I get it. And someone like me or you comes along, we're kicking the pillars away. We're saying all that lovely airy fairy stuff that makes you feel all gooey inside. Well, actually, that's also false. It's also manipulation, and you
Right.
get hated for it. You and don't. I'm not worried about a popularity contest, but of course, when you're taking away the things that make people feel good, um, or telling them things that are, bending reality on how it really is rather than how they want it to be, it's very difficult for people. So I more than anyone, I get that the information is very triggering and upsetting.
Yeah, it's not too popular.
No, it's not, especially when you're talking about people's loved ones, entities masquerading as people's loved ones at the death. People want to believe that, the dad's there, the granddad's there to greet them. Well, unfortunately, if they didn't learn about the soul trick, and I call it a soul trick, I don't call it a soul trap because I don't believe we're trapped here. If they didn't take the time to learn about the soul trick, the chances are they're going to be recycled back round. And you see this, you hear this with the NDEs. They've spoken of a tunnel of souls going one way to Earth and coming back. And so we have to really understand how manipulative these entities are. Down to the point that they will even masquerade themselves as a loved one. Yes, even a pet. And someone's got to say it. And yeah, it's all out there. You can research for yourself. I always use this example. I worked with this guy a couple of years ago now, and he thought he was channeling his dead dad. He said his dad died. He was really upset, obviously. And then he started channeling this entity who he thought was his dad. Of course, these entities know everything about us. They know what our favorite food is. They know who we're close to. So he was getting all this information from this entity who he thought he was his dad. And he started following the advice. And of course, like they do, they give you truths, plenty of truths to get you hooked in. Otherwise, you wouldn't believe them. He said, Tony, you're right in what you're saying. I followed the advice of what I thought was my dead dad. I lost everything. I lost my house. My relationship broke down. I was getting into accidents. My life just ended up a complete mess. And this is what they do. This is how manipulative and evil these beings are. Um, so yeah, this is all out there. This isn't just what I'm saying. I mean, the background that I have with, you know, entity attachments and understanding that has been useful in this work, but you can easily just go onto YouTube, start looking at these NDEs, and you will see the same themes over and over and over again. And they'll chop things up depending on the person. You know, sometimes the person will come across hooded beings in robes, because humans associate robes with you know, wisdom. So if they have a particular difficult time of convincing someone, quite often I've noticed that they'll appear as robes. And also another interesting one that I looked at the other day was the guy. He didn't want to come back again. Oh yeah, he didn't want to go through the veil of forgetfulness again. He didn't want to go through that. And they actually put him. Get this, Mark. They agreed to put him in a training center to go through the veil of forgetfulness, to go through the memory wipe, to come back into the body. They have frigging training centers out there in the astral.
Training gulags.
Yeah, and there's jobs. You know, people have jobs as well, like they do here. So this isn't just me saying all this. I'm just kind of like piecing it and packaging it together for people. This is all out there. You can. There's the interesting thing right now is that the amount of propaganda around NDEs. Joe Rogan's now talking about it on his podcast. There was a Disney film called Soul about, you know, going to the light tunnel, which I think is the moon. There was a big Netflix series about it. Now there's a lot of YouTube channels with thousands, hundreds and thousands of followers of all these NDEs, and I've come to the conclusion that where sadly more people are starting to die because of the you know what's, they're realizing that, you know, these people need to be recycled, so they're amping things up with the NDE propaganda. So yeah, I feel like I basically, to go back to your initial question, like what is this realm? And again, this is very triggering for people. I see it as a farm. I see it as an energy harvesting farm.
Yep.
We are the cows, and we're being fed on, and you know, they need us here to survive. But there is too many of us right now, which is why there's the cull. Because, you know, people are asking too many questions, and we can see that with all the censorship that they're panicking. And you know, this is upsetting for people. People don't want to believe that this place is a farm, and I get it. And you know, but I would always rather just see things for how they are rather than what they want to be.
I actually think all roads end at this point for any genuine truth seeker. You might come into it in different ways. With me, it was researching the music industry, and you came into it in your way. But I think if you're genuine and sincere and you really do want the answers, all roads converge at this point, eventually.
I call this the cherry on the pile of dog shit.
Nice.
I really believe that there isn't really much more empowering information. Actually, I had a really great comment from a subscriber on my YouTube channel, and it was very simple, but it really hit home. He was like, the most important thing that you can do in this lifetime is learn how to die properly. And that's very morbid, and you know, it's again,
and to never come back, most important.
Yeah, unless you want to, right? Unless you want to.
No thanks, you're all right. One-way ticket's fine for me.
But another thing that I've been thinking about recently, Mark, is the human body. You know, we're told that the human body is incredible. The amount of pain that we can feel through the human body, like again, you know, it's kind of very dark, but I'm going to go there. For some reason, a few months ago, YouTube started suggesting stage 4 cancer, people that were diagnosed with it, and I just started like following their journeys. They as soon as they take chemo, they all go downhill. But you know, some of them go through months, years of like pain and suffering. And I mean, I know cancer probably isn't a normal part of this realm. I think it's obviously it's induced with a lot of the pokes in the arms and the stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. I mean, it just feels like, you know, even like the other week I got a toothache, and it was just excruciating. I was thinking, why does it have to be that painful? Like,
Right.
why would you design it to be that painful? Like, seriously, the nervous system. Um, and even something like that, it kind of feels off to me, you know, like the just the design. Like, if I go out here in the sun, like with like just 10 minutes in the sun, I'm gonna get burned. I'm gonna get like red raw, like a lobster. Like, I don't know, is that not allocated for in the design? Little things like that.
Yeah.
Has it been tampered with? Is it, you know, it sometimes feels like it's kind of another prison, you know.
Yeah.
And one of these stage 4 victims said something very poignant, and he said, like, I want to give up. He said, but even if I give up, I still have to go through all the pain and suffering. And it was very sad, you know, very sad. No matter, you know, no matter what he'd done or however he got there, to hear those words. But it struck me like, yeah, like sometimes people are sick and ill for years, you know, with chronic pains and injuries and illnesses. Now, is it because things are just so unnatural here in terms of the chemicals everywhere? And, you know, could it be that if we were just left to our own devices to live off the land without all the, you know, the spraying in the skies, could we just, you know, probably we could live for hundreds of years. I feel like the body is self-healing. You know, when you cut yourself and you leave it, it just heals up, right?
Mm.
But is there something also about it that may be malevolent in design? And I don't know if I've reached a conclusion on that yet, but it just, you know, it just seems to me to it doesn't seem right. Something doesn't seem right about it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, there is a big golden nugget in all of this, because if you realize that all that is scam and deception and manipulation, and you learn the trick of the matrix and how the soul trap works or soul trick works, then it loses its power. And I think for most people, they're probably people that are aware of the soul trick and it resonates with them. I think they're probably not going to go to the light anyway. They're probably not even going to get as far as a life review. I feel like it's a simple decision, because obviously the obvious question is, well, where do you go? What do you do? I feel like it's all about intention. In that dimension, intention is instant. Here it's, you know, it's slow. We have to put in physical action if we want to, you know, manifest something. But there, and again, if you research the NDEs, they'll say things like, I thought of a forest and I was there, or I thought of being in an ocean realm and I was there.
Yeah.
And then it seems to me that when there is uncertainty, the matrix steps in. When they're uncertain of what to do, where to go, some kind of agent of the matrix will step in to try and lure them back. There was a very interesting one that I looked at where the guy he died of sleep apnea, and he saw that tunnel of the souls going backwards and forwards. Oh, another thing. Sorry, there's so much to unpack here. I'm talking a lot, Mark.
Don't worry, I've got plenty more questions.
All right, yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to point out is a lot of them report seeing mechanical souls. Now, I'm of the opinion that a lot of people here are NPCs. I think this is why we get so frustrated that people won't, quote unquote, wake up.
Mm.
I don't think they're able to. I think they're programmed. They can seemingly love and show care, and they have a lot of human qualities, but there's something that is missing, and it's that curiosity. It's that, why am I here? What is this?
We saw it
And
a couple of days ago, mate, with the Euros final where
yeah,
England was playing Spain. And I was watching footage of England football fans, and the passion that's within them. They're just burning with this fire within them for their team to win. And you just
Yeah,
think if only that passion could be directed somewhere that actually matters. And the only thing that seems important to them is football. Some guys kicking a sack of air around a field. And it's like these people never think to ask these big questions. You never
yeah.
hear these types of conversations in pubs or, among work colleagues or whatever. And it just baffles me that you can go through an entire human lifetime and not have these kind of questions. How can you not wonder about these things? So yeah,
Yeah.
the idea of NPCs is very plausible to me.
Yeah, and I think they hold up the matrix, and this is why when you try and broach these subjects with these people, it's almost like you see the Agent Smith step forward, and they start calling you tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist, and all
Yeah,
that nonsense.
yeah,
But I put it down to this: I was on a very long bus trip from a place called Puerto Escondido to Oaxaca City. And it was 12 hours, and the aircon broke down, so it was a very long, hot journey. And they had a TV screen in the bus, and there I was looking out the window, and I had so many questions, as I always do, going through my mind, just questioning, always questioning things. And then as I turned around, I just scanned the bus, and every single one of them, Mark, was sitting with their mouth kind of half open, looking at the TV.
mm,
And I thought, what these people lack, these kind of NPC people lack, is the curiosity. They don't have that curiosity,
yeah,
and I think that's really, I think they're programmed that way, and they've actually in some of these NDEs reported seeing mechanical souls. So I really feel like there's a certain amount of source players, like in a video game,
yeah.
and there is the NPCs. And again, very triggering for a lot of people, people have got loved ones, they've got family members, and people don't want to think that maybe they're not who they think they are. So
Maybe that's where all these fumble slabs come in, all these devices that people are addicted to.
yeah, yeah,
Because they appeal because they're kind of mechanical in nature themselves. So there's a compatibility there. People with
yeah.
their faces buried in their bloody screen all day long, and it's all they care about now. So,
I was on a boat journey the other day, and it's almost like the Matrix reconstructs itself around you to try and annoy you. I mean, you spoke there about noise. It always happens to me. I go to do something, building will start, or a baby will start screaming in the background, or someone will start putting reggaeton in the background.
yeah.
As they do here in Mexico. God, I was going to say God bless them then, but no, I won't say that. Um,
I heard your
but
podcast with Yasmin where you were talking about going out and people have
oh
got
my
these portable
God.
speakers and they're blasting out reggaeton all day long.
So I got on a boat the other day, and I sit down, and I always try and find somewhere, quiet. And so I found this seat on the side on my own. Anyway, what happens? A woman, like there's plenty of other seats around. A woman with a can of beer in her hand comes, sits right next to me, starts making phone calls, shouting on her, like literally shouting on her phone.
Yeah,
Stinks
what's
about.
that all about? People don't even have private phone calls anymore. They
I
put the bloody thing
know,
on
I know.
speaker so everyone around them has to know their business.
Yeah. So
When did
anyway,
that
listen
happen?
to this. So I thought I can't sit here for 40 minutes next to her. So I'm like fucking Matrix. So I get up and I go to the top deck, and there's like four rows completely empty. I'm like, oh God, nice, nice. So I sit down on a two-seater. This guy comes up, right? Bearing in mind there must be like 25 other seats around me. He sits directly behind me, right, with his head in his phone, like he's not even looking, and he puts his head on the back of my seat, like invading my personal space. And I'm like, I can't believe that this has happened. He's got to be some kind of AI, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking around. I'm like, look at all these spare seats. He's sat behind me, and not only is he sat behind me, he's putting his head in my personal space, right?
Yeah.
So then I get up again, and then I move forward, and then there's three Mexicans come in with a mini speaker and sitting like two rows ahead and start playing music. It's like that has to be a thing. So.
Mm. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
asking the same questions. We're having similar experiences. I mean, for many years, I've mentioned this on some of my podcasts. I've been seeing my birth date everywhere I go. So
yeah,
my birth date, or my born date, I should say, because birth is Admiralty law. And I used to really like it because I thought, oh, this is great. This is synchronistic, and it's the universe telling me that I'm on the right path and just keep going. You're where you need to be. But I find it a bit more disturbing now. It's as if
Yeah,
it's specifically coded for me. It's
yeah.
been bespoke, personalized for me, these numbers. And I'm no longer as keen on seeing it as I was because I don't really know what's behind it, but it just feels like something that's been personally crafted for me. And
Yeah.
maybe we all have these individual situations personally crafted for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the NDEs, they talk about like pre-birth planning. About we have these certain contracts and certain things that we agree to. We kind of design our lives with the help of the Matrix, of course. Who probably, well, why don't you be a Vietnamese farmer with one leg for this
Yeah.
lifetime?
Be a child in Gaza that gets his
Yeah,
leg
yeah,
blown off as a
that'll be
bomb
good.
rains down
Because
in the middle of the
you've
night.
got
Yeah.
lessons to learn. You've got to learn your lessons,
You got to
right?
learn what it feels like. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you often hear that people have designed their lives, and I've got a theory about this in the fact that when I look at my life before I don't even like the word woke up or whatever, but we'll use that for argument's sake. I was basically very much NPC like. I was just, football, I used to drink, like working the corporate job, like just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I'd have, because we have willpower, right? And I think willpower trumps anything that we agree to, quote unquote. And I feel like if I'd have just stayed on that path, followed that path, I got a very strong insight that because I was under so much stress in the industry I was in, I kept getting this voice like, you're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 50. And that was one of the reasons I quit my job, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to ignore that voice. Like, where's that coming from? But it felt like that. I feel like if I'd have just carried on that matrix path and followed the matrix stuff, I probably would be living maybe the life that I pre-planned, maybe. But what happened is my willpower intervened, and I'm like, no, this is bullshit. Like, I feel like a slave. Like, what is this place?
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. So I think now I'm carving my own path, right? So even with things like that, I don't believe that it holds all power. I feel like we can inject our will over anything, and there's energetically you can do contract clearing and stuff like that. But again, it's very interesting, concept that we actually plan our lives here, and so there was that. But there was another point that I was going to explain to you in that. Oh yeah, just one more example of the manipulation. This guy, he had sleep apnea, and he died. He said he saw these tunnels of souls, and he said that he saw a ball of light which was incredible. And he said some of the lights we don't even have names for in this dimension. And he said he couldn't stop staring at it. And he said that the colors had their own consciousness, basically. And he was gravitating toward. Now, I'm not saying that ball of light is home. Even at this point, I'm saying, look, discern, right? But it felt like he was tuning into maybe something that, like some kind of ball of creation, or something that that could be essence or something like that. And he was gravitating toward this place, and he was like, oh, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go. And anyway, he said that, oh, and at that moment, and he's like, well, I don't want to, I want to go. And anyway, this energy was back and forth with this guy. Eventually it was like, but you have children, you have a mission, you've got things to do. And of course, he came back, they shoehorned him back. And he said for months afterwards. And when I watched this NDE, I could tell that he still hadn't got any clarity over what had happened. He was still confused, because he said he came back into the body. He felt, all the heaviness of the emotions and the pain and, everything that comes with the human body. And he said he was angry. He said he was angry for months that he'd been convinced to come back. And he was
I
out
would
there,
be.
promoting. Yeah, but he's out there promoting it like it's something good. And I thought, I'm going to reach out to this guy. And I emailed him. I sent him a link to one of my videos. I said, look, it feels like you still got questions. Like, just watch this. And anyway, he hasn't come back to me. But that was another interesting, an interesting NDE where the Matrix kind of interferes to try and drag you back in. So,
And
but
interestingly, while you were telling that anecdote right there, the internet connection dropped out momentarily.
oh,
So,
really?
yeah, there's a few moments of silence. I'm going to leave them in the recording so people can hear where that was. But
Yeah.
isn't it interesting? We were talking about these bespoke, personalized situations that, this realm seems to design for us. And right while you were telling that story, you dropped out for the first time.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first or the last, but
Yeah,
yeah. So I guess the ultimate question, and this is just what I'm gonna do, because I don't want this on my shoulders if I get it wrong. But people say, well, what do you do? Where do you go? Well, first of all, once you're aware of the scam, chances are you're not going to go to the light. If you meet with any entities, you've probably gone too far. For me, in that dimension, as I say, everything's instant there. You can create instantly. So, for example, if I say to you, Mark, shut your eyes and create a space in nature with a lake, mountains, you'll create somewhere, and you'll be able to visualize it, and it's there. It's there in the astral. So we're creators of realms. So we can either create somewhere to go, or for me, it's simple intention. Take me out of this matrix. Take me to where I need to go, and your consciousness will go there. But the thing is being sure and knowing that you want to leave, and knowing that the whole thing's a scam here, and you want to go. And some people have talked about, ripping a hole in the fabric of the matrix. People have reported like a net. I had an inner child session with a client, and her inner child reported using like a dagger to, rip a hole in the fabric of the matrix. But it's all about intention. Intention in that realm is it's powerful. It's instant, and if your intention is strong to leave, then that's what will happen. So I don't think the truth has to be complicated over this. I think it's a very simple truth. Some researchers say, you've got to live the perfect life and give up all your bad habits and all this stuff. I don't believe that at all. I feel like that's kind of impossible, because as humans, we're flawed anyway.
exactly. Don't stand
So
a chance.
no, exactly. But so I think of all this pile of turd, right? And very dark information, very triggering information, very upsetting information. There's the nugget of gold in it, because if you understand the soul trick, you're not going to fall for it again. So people have to, put their ego to one side, put the need to feel good to one side, because this is what stops people going further with this information, is that it doesn't make you feel good. When you're talking of angels and gods being an entity, a negative entity, and earth being a place of trauma and suffering, doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah, it's bleak. It's dark.
But what do people want? Do they want to feel good in the moment, or do you want to get the hell out of here?
Second option.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at.
Yeah. So you got all these sort of new age spirituality teachings, and we get taught that we pre-plan these lives and we choose to undergo these experiences. We've covered that already, and the flaws in that way of thinking. And then there's the idea of karma, and that really doesn't seem to work, as you've said also. The idea is that if you live in right action and you are in service to creation, to others, then good things will come your way. And meanwhile, if you're an evil psychopathic piece of shit that treads all over everyone else and their rights and violates natural law, then karma will come for your ass and you will be punished and you will undergo appropriate consequences. But we don't see that happening. We just see the evil, selfish, psychopathic demons seemingly getting rewarded for their actions and doing just fine. And as you've said, good people just seem to be suffering the whole time. So,
Yeah.
do you feel these kind of ideas have been deliberately put out there as an alternative to organized religions to ensnare those that see these as mind control institutions? Because a lot of truth seekers are going to reject Christianity, Islam, Judaism, whatever it may be. They'll see those as traps for the mind. But maybe these new age ideas are there as an alternative. If they can't get you that way, they'll get you this way, and they'll steer you off down an alternative path, which also leads away from real truth.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's why the New Age was created by Helena Blavatsky, who was a dark Luciferian.
Right.
They could see that people were losing literal faith with religions, and they needed something new. And when you look at karma, when you break it down, you're a bad person, so you need to resolve your karma, or you will be punished. Religion, you're a bad person. You're going to go
You're
to
going to
hell.
hell. Yeah.
Be punished, right? So it's the
Already here,
same.
mate.
It's the same, And sorry, excuse my French. Who the fuck are these people, these entities, to stand there in judgment anyway? I mean, who are these people it's so frustrating listening to these NDEs. They pedestalize these beings. They hang off every word they say. We were talking about this off air, how even in our field, we have a certain following that, if we wanted to, we could wield a lot of power. Like some of the things, people
Yeah.
are waiting to hear what you're going to say.
You could really misuse these
Could
positions if
really
you were ever
mislead.
mind to.
Yeah, you could really, and people are like knowingly and unknowingly, and but it's even we've got things wrong in our time, Mark, haven't we? We
Oh,
hold our
yeah.
hands up with the whole new age
You can
thing,
go
and
over previous podcasts that we've both done, and we were
yeah,
putting out ideas that we're no longer behind, and we don't think that way anymore. But that's where we were at the time.
yeah, but that the thing is that we've held our hands up and say, look, I got that wrong, and
Yeah.
I think people can appreciate that,
Mm.
and yeah, so it's yeah,
Yeah, people
it's
respect that. There's
yeah,
researchers that have remained concrete minded for 20 or 30 years and they haven't shifted one iota in their
yeah,
teachings. And I'm
yeah,
very suspicious of people that can't admit that they've got the odd thing wrong or that they need to shift a little bit this way in the way they think about things. We're works
yeah,
in progress. And if we
yeah.
can let go of the ego and just admit that we sometimes get things wrong and we're learning. See, the thing is, we're doing it very publicly, guys like us with our podcast because we have audiences and they're witnessing us going through these journeys and we're taking a lot of them with us and they're discovering things as we are, but we're doing it very publicly in ways that most people do privately.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think I mean, we one thing I got from Mark Passio was the one of the strongest things a person could say is I was wrong.
Right.
I don't know if he could say that about a few things, to be fair, but
Right.
um, yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of things down the years where I've said, I was wrong about tail between my legs a little bit. I mean, I try as best as possible. Anything that I put out there content wise
Hmm.
is as
Oh, it's always
accurate.
sincere at the time. It's
Yeah,
where we're at the time, but a little bit later on, you can look back and think, no, I was misguided there. I got that wrong. I wish I hadn't done that
yeah.
shot.
And with the whole karma thing, I'm not saying people, have to be bad people. Be a good person, but be a good person for good person's sake. Not because you're scared of some karmic lord that's going to
Right.
judge you and whatever. So, but also the other thing as well is like what I'm saying to people is, look, as dark as maybe this information is, like if you take it on board, hopefully this is your last time here. So laugh at the Matrix, poke fun of all the craziness that goes on. You know, enjoy your friends and family members and nature and your hobbies and whatever you're creating and all that stuff in this lifetime. You know, it doesn't need to be, we don't need to be down and depressed and sad and angry about it. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, of
live
course.
like it's your last time around.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, you know, for me, I really feel like, you know, this is the last hurrah. I've had so many people tell me, Tony, I've always known this is my last lifetime here. And I
Thank
think there's
fuck for
something
that.
in that. Yeah. And for me, I'm like, it's a circus. It's a batshit crazy circus. I've tried my best to help people along the way. You know, I can look myself in the mirror and, you know that I stood up for what was important. I got things wrong a few times, fell out with a few people. But it was all because, you know, ultimately I wanted to help people. I want to help myself get out of here as well. So yeah, just make the most of it. And you know, it's a soul trick. And once you realize it's a trick, you realize the scam, then you hold the keys to get out.
Yeah. So within this area of research, there's a lot of talk of us being divine sparks. So
Mhm.
aspects of the original creator God, creative force, which sits higher than the demonic, psychopathic, so-called God of this realm. Whether you see that as Yaldabaoth of the Gnostics or Rex Mundi of the Cathars, Yahweh in the Old Testament. Some people would say it was Satan, Satan's realm. Whatever entity controls this realm of existence, there's an original, much higher God sitting atop that force. So, do you go along with the idea that this is some kind of simulation realm and that we're actually aspects of much higher forms of consciousness that have been, as you would say, tricked into incarnating in this place?
Yeah, absolutely. I see this as a video game and one of many video games that we can experience. And maybe there's other video games that are more like Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe there's more Love and Light video games. Maybe there's more like Aqua World video games. We are in this video game, which if you ever played the game Sims, I would call this Sims gangster version. And it's we've somehow been, there's a virus like a computer game, and we've been, you know, either manipulated or tricked into, you know, recycling ourselves here over and over again. But I do believe that there are source players, like soul beings, proper soul beings, people that I would say are, you know, trying to spread the truth and do what's right amongst the NPCs. And I believe that the soul beings, we are the batteries that power this matrix. And I think that all the propaganda they're putting out now about the NDEs, they're worried that you know, if you take batteries out of a device, it stops working, right? And I feel like the more batteries that come out of this matrix, then it's going to lose its power. Um, and so yeah, I feel like I mean, I had a breakthrough experience many years ago. I took acid. I don't recommend it now, but it was, I had what I call a break, or what is known as a breakthrough, where, you know, my consciousness, I could only explain that it melted into everything. So I became like a drop in the ocean, which really my ego, my Tony Sayers ego, really didn't like, because it was like, are you telling me that all the problems, all the struggles, all the things that I worked myself up to be, I'm just part of everything that molds into kind of, not nothing, but everything.
Was that
But
in your
also,
raving days?
yeah, no, it was after that. It was on a beach in Cambodia.
Oh, okay.
But it was it literally, I felt like the drop of the I was the ocean. And I believe that when we leave this matrix, we have the option to go back to being part of the ocean again. Or I believe, because we are a fragment of the ocean, I can have other experiences, as if I choose to, as Tony Sayers, in different realms and different matrices. So I believe we have the choice to retain that fragmented state, or we can go back to essence. And I see that a lot with what's known as internal family systems parts work, that we have parts of our subconscious that are actually playing roles for us to protect us. And often when they're resolved, they want to go back to consciousness itself. And there's actually a Disney movie around that right now, The Emotions, which is actually a lot of truth in that. But that's kind of another topic. So I believe that, yeah, we're a fragment of what is essence, and we can go back to that state, or we can have other experiences. That's what I believe, and we can create other realms. I think we underestimate ourselves as to our true nature. They know our true nature, and I think we're capable of so much, really. Telepathy and psychic abilities and all this stuff that obviously we're not taught in school about. They don't want us knowing all that stuff. They want us to keep thinking that we're little me, got no power. But actually, I do believe that what we're seeking outside of ourselves with this God character, we have that within us. And yeah, that's basically what I think about it. So it's not that not that I'm saying, I'm an atheist, but this God that's running this matrix is definitely a deceiver and a master manipulator, and how they've set this place up is genius, really.
Well, this is one of the biggest questions I have, Tony, and I've been asking this on many of the videos I've done this year. If this realm was hijacked, if it originally was a lot better than it is now, or if it was specially constructed, if it's this artificial construct that we've been tricked to incarnate into, and it was created by some kind of demonic entity, whatever name you want to put on it, where was the original God of creation, the Most High, when this place got hijacked or created? So if there really is a loving, benevolent force out there, how could it just stand by and allow this hell world, this evil realm to be created, and us beautiful divine sparks to be tricked and coerced into coming here to undergo all this fear, pain, and trauma? That's my biggest question of all.
Yeah, I mean, I have that question. I mean, that's the obvious question. Okay, well, why is the original creator or essence allowing this? But I think when you consider that if we have that within us, then is it not down to us to make this place better?
The
Because
thing is, you and I would we might want to do that, and we
yeah,
do. The will
yeah,
and the intent is there
yeah,
amongst people like us, but
yeah,
we're held back by the masses, by the collective, who
yeah,
don't give a shit. They're in states of complete profane spiritual ignorance, and they're the majority.
yeah.
And so the majority rules, and the majority keeps us all bogged down in this base consciousness shithole hell world. So
Yeah, I
even
mean,
though we might want to get out ourselves, we're being held back by others. Doesn't seem very fair, really.
yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think if you zoom out, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that things are anywhere near perfect, or even getting anywhere near perfect. But if you zoom out to, maybe when we first met, 10 years ago, like, just how many people now are starting to ask questions. And I mean, I'm on TikTok quite a lot, and the amount of people there that are talking about this stuff compared to 10 years ago, when it just seemed like there was just a tiny few of us. It's incredible. So there's obviously something going on. I mean, there's obviously there's obviously a larger amount of people that are using that willpower, using that spark within to engage in truth, or at least try and get to the answers and
Seeking
expose what's
truth.
going on. So maybe it's not going to be an overnight thing, but maybe it's going to take a while. but maybe it's having that divine spark within us. We are the ones that have to stop this and end this. But of course, there is the argument that, why would it be allowed to create? Is there like a head honcho that's governing all of this? And I don't
Mm,
know. Maybe creation is just creation, and it just doesn't really. I don't know. The whole there's no good or bad. Of course, that's a new age concept. So maybe I'm searching for the wrong term there, but I don't know. I feel like at this stage, if we're saying that we are a part of that creative essence and we have that within us, then I think the more of us that do get on the right page and start moving in the right direction, then I mean we see it with all the censorship, and they're not getting everything they want. We would have been walking around with jab passports if it was down to them a few years ago, but
true.
they haven't been able to implement that. So there's a lot of
Mm,
things that they're not getting right now.
mm.
But of course, if they've been here for millennia, they're not going to go very easily. So it may not be a battle that's going to be won overnight. But
Mm. Well, I do
yeah,
like the fact that you're able to find a positive slant with all this stuff because it's bleak information when you first come across it. And bloody
oh
hell, I
yeah,
thought when I was talking about the Rolling Stones and the Doors and the Who not being quite who you thought they were, people
yeah.
used to get pissed off at me. How dare you destroy my favorite
Oh,
rock band and try and besmirch their name? But that was nothing to the amount of scorn that I've got from certain quarters for asking these questions. Although,
oh,
having said that, I've also received a lot of supportive comments, and I get a lot of emails and I read all the comments below the video platforms for these shows I've been doing this year. And so many people are saying to me, it's great that you're asking these questions because these have been on my mind for a very long time. And it's just fantastic to hear you articulate these and explore these areas and just be prepared to go there. And
mhm.
maybe it's that way for you. A lot of people are really glad that shows of this nature are being put out now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's 50-50. I'm hated by 50% and I'm loved by the other 50%. But
Mm,
for me, it's neutral. I really don't care either way. At this stage, I just want to get accurate information out there. And even at this point, I'm saying, discern what I'm saying. Do back check it. I'm pretty sure that what I'm talking about is as accurate as it can be based on years now of research and kind of working in the field of entities and knowing how they masquerade. Um, so yeah, the ultimate golden nugget is in this it offers a way out. It offers a key out of this. So it's not negative information. On the surface it is. It does, in the moment it doesn't make you feel good. But if it gets you the hell out of here, then surely it's got to be a good thing. So
got to be value in that.
but you can never discern truth by how it makes you feel. It's a ridiculous way of even discerning truth. You should never discern truth by how it makes you feel, like good or bad inside. It's often the truth makes us not feel good inside, I've found. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a silver lining at the end of the false white light tunnel.
Hmm. I mean, the first time I came across this idea, I was like, for fuck's sake, we spend our entire lives being deceived and lied to and gaslit and
Yeah,
MK ultra'd. And even when we leave our bodies and
yeah,
get out of this place and return seemingly to spirit soul form in what lies
yeah,
beyond, deception even lies there. We're not even
yeah,
free of it at that point. That really
yeah,
pissed me off. And I kind of rejected that idea and pushed it away for a while just because it was so hideous to contemplate. But
yeah.
there's so much evidence, as you've laid out in this conversation today, that this is a realm that's been deliberately set up to cultivate fear, pain, suffering, and trauma. And we can ask
Hmm.
ourselves what kind of force, what kind of entity would have created a place like this and to what end? And if
Yeah,
we're being honest, it's not going to be any kind of loving, benevolent entity or
yeah,
force. So yes, it's a very strong possibility that the deception and the duplicity continues beyond these lives.
Yeah, I think whatever happens, wherever you go after death, just always discern. And I think humans by nature, I think we want to think the best of people. We don't want to think that people are going to manipulate. I think we're very kind of childlike in that sense. I think when children are born, they kind of have that innocence, don't they, of looking at the best in everyone. And I think, we carry that on, but this is, like I say, this is like Gangster Planet. And if you don't exercise that muscle, stop pedestalizing people as well, and stop looking for a savior. My God, like this idea that someone's going to come and save us, be it Trump, Kennedy, angels, God. I mean, for God's sake, like this is at this point now for truth seekers at least. This is childlike. Like we've got to grow up, and it becomes sovereign. I think I love the term sovereign. People say, well, for me, spirituality, quote unquote, you can put most of it in the bin. For me, I'm at sovereignty. That's where we need to be at. And that's about taking responsibility, taking action, discerning, being your own leader, not hanging off every word someone's saying because it feels good. And having that kind of like internal maturity. And I think that needs to be cultivated and developed in a person in terms of their consciousness. But with that, you have people have so many layers of trauma. They've been abandoned, they've been abused, and of
Yeah,
course,
what
all
is
that
that all
stuff.
about? I mean, we all
Well,
come
that's
with
the
trauma.
thing.
There's different degrees of it, and obviously some people have undergone horrific trauma, but all of us have to some degree.
Yeah.
All of us carry this deep-seated trauma and this fear, this sort of primal fear that we try and suppress, just
Mm,
to bury it away. And some people use drugs or alcohol or whatever it is just to bury it so they don't have to deal with it. But it's there with all of us. What is it
absolutely.
about?
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of people that are born and into very difficult circumstances. Like they're kind of beaten down before they even stand a chance. Sometimes literally, and we've all been told we're not good enough and we're not worthy. The system tells us that every day. They tell us there's too many of us here. We're like parasites, and we need to be, culled. They're quite open about that. So
Yeah.
we're constantly being told that,
Gaslit.
yeah, gaslit, we're a piece of shit. And that's why it's very difficult when someone comes along and says, you know what, you've got God inside you or essence inside you, that it's very difficult for people to embody that because there's layers of trauma and that they don't believe it deep down. And I think, that comes with doing the inner work and reparenting those, holographic imprints that are stuck in time and space, which can take a while. But even the fact that most of us have to go through the process of healing. Why do we all have to go through healing? I mean, why can't we just experience good for good, just because it's good? Why do we have to go through all the pain and trauma? And I
Right.
saw a meme the other day. It was like for a men's group. It's like you're not like a man will not experience becoming a true man until he's gone through like trauma and suffering. And I'm like, why? Like, why can't I just have good experience just for the sake of having good experience? Why do I have to
Yeah.
go through that dirt before I have that? The
Well,
whole
this is the
self.
thing, this new age idea that we come here to undergo experiences and our souls desire growth and evolution and stuff. Then how come some of us don't come in, incarnate here and just enjoy happiness and abundance and joy? Why is it always fear, pain, suffering, trauma? You,
Yeah.
you, you you never get just the joy and just the happiness. There's always some fucking suffering that comes in to
Yeah.
offset it.
And we lose our childlike playfulness. We lose that through all the trauma and the suffering. And the new age will, I mean, they just want to they want to pass it off as, well, it's a school, you chose this. I mean,
Mm.
get excuse my French, but get fucked with that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I know for a fact
Bollocks,
that,
did we choose this?
yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, that it's such an. I said to that woman that that viewpoint is evil. It's inherently evil. If you're telling me that a little girl came here to chose to have her limbs blown off in
Yeah.
front of in front of her family members, and that stuff happens on the daily, by the way, this is not a extreme example, that makes you evil. Like literally, how could you say that? Like really, it just
Yeah.
annoys me so
Yeah.
much that because they want to bend this place into somewhere that it's not, something that it's not. And you know, of course, they all think that they're going to ascend to 5D in the new earth in the next few months, like
Mm.
with
With
their
the
ascension.
Galactic Federation of Light
Yeah, with
and the
their ascension
Pleiades.
symptoms, which is basically radiation poison. It's just, I mean, you just can't make it up.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, you don't have to.
so much nonsense.
Mm. So you don't shy away from controversial subjects. And a while back, you started advocating that people get their chakras removed and you
Hmm.
started offering the service. And this caused a lot of people to ask, what the hell is he talking about? How can you
Yeah.
remove chakras? So, do you still stand behind that? Is that still something that you advocate?
Yeah, I still definitely 100% advocate it. And yeah, I mean, with I made a video about it a few months ago, just chakra removal updated. Just basically that the chakras are an artificial implant, an etheric artificial implant.
So, you
Um,
feel they came from the evil entity that devised this place rather than the original God of
yeah, of
creation or
course.
the
So
Most High?
we have our what I would say our three natural chakras, which are our Dantian points around the head, the heart, and the sacral chakra. But the seven, you know, the rainbow colors. No coincidence there that they use the rainbow colors.
Right.
Are basically an etheric AI implant which entities lock into and you know, feed on our energy and loop negative thoughts around our head 24/7.
So, how did
uh,
you arrive at that conclusion?
well, the reason I arrived at that conclusion is because I had my own removed. Because what happened was, back when I lived in Cambodia, I put a video out about the military and, you know, basically saying they weren't heroes and all this stuff. And it went viral. And I woke up, it had like 40,000 hits or something. And the I got all these death threats from angry soldiers in my inbox, as you can imagine. And of course, you know, they weren't very happy. But I wasn't scared or anything because I knew a lot of these people were just full of hot air. But what happened after that, I was just walking around in what I could describe as like an energetic soup. It just felt so heavy. I had severe anxiety, like even just going down the local shop, I was anxious, like unusually so. And I just felt very drained and basically, yeah, just not myself. And I didn't really understand what psychic energy was at the time, which basically, if someone has a thought form, you know, I hate you or I want you to die, you know, that sticks on your energy field, right? So I had all these angry soldiers sending me this negative energy unknowingly, and yeah, so basically, I was desperate. I tried different things, detoxes, and yeah. Then one day, this woman approached me and she said, "Well, I'm doing entity clearing, but also part of that is chakra removal." And I was partly desperate, to be honest, but also partly because part of me resonated with it because I thought, do you know what? That I could imagine that they would use the most beautiful things with all the lotus flowers and you know the colors as to be the most evil. That's just typical of what they would do. And so she worked on me remotely and it was like night and day. This cloud had lifted, and yeah, I basically all the voices that I had just completely went quiet for the first time in my life. I had so much space in my head, and and so yeah, at that point, I was like, well, I want to learn how to do that, and yeah, I'm going to question the chakras, and you know, I feel like that they're also part of the manipulation. Of course, you know, when you go public with something like that,
It's
because
a
everyone
shocker.
Yeah, everyone works with you know, in the new age, they all work with the chakras. The entities that work through new ages will hate that, so they will attack me through certain people. And of course, I had a lot of pushback. But down the years, you know, 10 years now, I've had some incredible results with people. You know, people reporting the same thing. The mind quietens down. And you know, there can be some side effects to it, which I talk about in the video. If you've got a lot of trauma there, it can bring that to the surface. I always make that clear to people that there can be like a purge. You know, unfortunately,
Sounds
some
like an
people.
ayahuasca trip.
Not really, because you're not really doing any, you're not really taking anything to induce your or change your consciousness. You're just literally removing an implant that shouldn't be there. You can't remove anything that's organic to the energy body. You can only remove inorganic stuff, and the chakras is just one etheric implant that we're subject to. We have a lot of etheric implants around the heart, the throat, the brain, particularly the heart, because they don't like the expansion of the heart. It's not good for their low frequency reality that they want. So where you have a physical heart, you have an energetic heart, physical brain, energetic brain. It's at that energetic level that we're being implanted, which affects us in those areas physically. So yeah, we're not just being poisoned on a physical level. We're also being energetically hijacked by entity attachments, etheric implants, and all the astral junk as well. So yeah, I mean, broaching a topic like that, I mean, of course, you know, you're going to get a huge amount of pushback, and you know, I think I was one of the first, not the first person to talk about it, but I was very public about talking about it, and
Yeah. I
you
saw
know,
a lot of the pushback.
yeah, I mean, I had a huge amount of pushback, but you know, again, it's getting out of the feelings and just taking a look and you know, putting the feelings to the beautiful chakras to one side and thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something in this, and so yeah, I still stand by what I said then.
Sure. You've written a few books. Do you want to talk about those?
I need to take most of them down. Most of them talked about natural law.
Yeah.
I think the best book that I have is The New Age, The New Cage. That's still completely valid. I've had people read that. It's relatively short. I wrote that in a few weeks actually, and yeah, I think that's the book that I would recommend any of my books people would read. The other ones I need to make some changes to, which I'm in the process of doing based on new information.
Sure. Okay. And what have you got coming up in the pipeline? Any further plans, projects?
Oh my God. Well, you know, like you said, a lot of people are hungry for this. Things have gone really crazy for me. I did an interview on someone called Mark Atwood's show. I don't know if you know him.
I
Um,
know of him, yeah.
yeah, well, I didn't really even know who he was, but after that, it went
He's very
crazy.
popular.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I mean, that interview didn't nearly happen because he got interfered with just before we came on the call. So, and I even say that people like murderers and rapists, these aren't even human. These are just human vessels being with an entity takeover. And when you research murders and rapes, and you know, if there's a survivor, they'll often say that the eyes turned black, or the person said, "Don't look at me in the eyes," because they don't want to be discovered. So even the horrific things that we see like that, I don't even think are human, you know. I think that these entities are using some people as just vessels, you know. And I've
Mm.
seen it in my own life. I saw you know, an ex, her eyes just very briefly kind of not shape shifted, but they flickered, and I'm like, oh my God. And this was before I even knew about all this stuff to this depth. So there's other stuff going on. We're sharing this reality with these entities that are just outside of our visible sight, as people like David Icke has said for years. But I think it goes a lot deeper with that. They're not just manipulating world leaders; they're manipulating all of us, and they're feeding on all of us. Um, And yeah, so it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what a show. Yeah, who would ever believe that we would end up at this point? But I think we should definitely do another show together a few months down the line, and we'll see what's happened between now and then. What do you think?
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much for having me back on, and it was great to reconnect with you again.
No worries, man. We were both due to have conversations with Wayne Bush. I put out my show with Wayne Bush from 2014, just a few weeks ago, and he was really ahead of his time because he was talking about this reincarnation soul trap idea and the tunnel of light years and years ago. And I had him on in 2014. It was his first media interview. And I really wanted to do a sort of 10-year anniversary show with him. And he did initially agree with Julie McVeigh, who he does his shows with. But then he said he doesn't feel comfortable doing interviews anymore. So sadly, that's not going to happen. But yeah, that would have been a good one.
That's weird. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me at this point, everyone needs to know about the soul trick. Everyone, like as many people as possible need to, even if they don't necessarily want to go down with that rhetoric that it's a soul trick, they need to hear it, right? And so it just doesn't make sense to me why you just wouldn't talk about it. I mean, even the smallest channels that ask me to come on, I'll give them an hour of my time because I realize it's important, you know. I just don't understand it. I mean, you know, maybe he's got some personal stuff going on. But yeah, I tried to get him on and he outright told me that he doesn't do interviews anymore or something. And so yeah, kind of same
It's a
thing.
shame. Disappointing. All right, then. Well, yeah, great chat. And thanks again for coming on today.
You're welcome, Mark. Take care.
All the best. Cheers.
This is just a run.
Vibrations, I'm picking up. Vibrations, I'm picking up.